Welcome back. Today we'll be creating the Oozewarp, a Fleshwarp that underwent further experimentations to become more aberrant. Hi, I'm Yovel and I'll be going through the core features of the Oozewarp today. The Oozewarp is a created Fleshwarp, a failed attempt of creating a homunculus which resulted in a deformed body that didn't require food to survive. It appeared to be more of an ooze rather than a humanoid to the displeasure of its creator. As with its appearance, the Oozewarp developed the tendency to communicate with other aberrations with the aberration kinship feat. Following this trend, uncanny awareness grants the Oozewarp imprecise motion sense of 30 feet around it like other oozes. Coating of slime enhances these ooze-like traits with unarmed attacks causing persistent acid damage on critical hits. Augment senses help the Oozewarp have a better understanding of their surroundings to negate flanking penalties for a round and focusing the uncanny awareness into a specific area. And spew tentacles to create a writhing mass to grapple foes around the Oozewarp. As the Oozewarp was more akin to oozes instead of a humanoid, they were shipped off to Anopion to be an ooze tender, as it was more fitting to have something with some intelligence to interact and care for what seems to be its kind. Communicating with oozes can lead to strange conversations, especially when you're not expecting them to communicate back. Those that the Oozewarp could communicate with would preach about Duoblex, the faceless demon lord devoted to oozes and poisons. Duoblex is a potent and dangerous source of power. Our base class is a monk, granting us progression with unarmed attacks and armored proficiency. The unarmed strikes will help trigger coating of slime, and the Oozewarp's gelatinous body isn't really suited to wearing heavy or stiff armor. We are going with Key Strike as our first level feat, granting a focus point and increasing damage, especially when used with a flurry. While selecting a key spell will unlock the DC progression with either divine or occult spells, which will benefit the Spew Tentacles ancestry feat, we are going with our next archetype that will grant training in occult spell attack rolls and DCs as well. The Sorcerer archetype unlocks the aberrant bloodline that is innate to the Oozewarp. The basic bloodline spell from the aberrant bloodline grants the Tentacular Limbs feat and another focus point. The tentacular limbs work aesthetically with the Oozewarp, as it allows them to increase their unarmed reach by 10 feet, striking foes at a distance if needed. Basic bloodline potency grants the access to a first or second level sorcerer feat. We have chosen Entreat with Forebears. This grants a bonus to diplomacy, deception, or intimidation when communicating with them via aberration kinship. Moving on to the Oozemorph archetype, which grants features that allows the Oozewarp to communicate and take on features of oozes. Disturbing Defense reduces damage from precision-based attacks such as Sneak Attack or a Swashbuckler's Panache, and reduces the check to stop persistent bleeding. Vacate Vision will help with dealing with Basilisk or other creatures with a visual effect. Being blinded for the duration is somewhat mitigated, as we have the imprecise motion sense and augment senses that can be used regularly each round to reduce bonuses the foes might employ with flanking attempts or choosing to trigger the Vacate Vision for the blind condition. Ooze Empathy allows the Oozewarp to use their unique communicating abilities to make simple requests on mindless creatures. Rubbery Skin is similar to Disturbing Defense, where it reduces bludgeoning damage depending on the number of feats taken from the Oozemorph archetype. Uncanny Suction grants mobility to the Oozewarp, granting them a climb speed. As we won't be fighting with weapons, we won't have to worry about being disarmed. Peculiar Anatomy works in conjunction with the created Fleshwarp, where it gains bonuses to disease, poisons, and resistance to poison damage. One of the other benefits of this feat is that it increases the base damage reduction against precision damage from 2 plus number of feats to 7 plus number of Oozemorph feats. We are using our free Ancestry stat boost for Charisma to get access to the Sorcerer dedication early on. The Ooze Tender background grants either Constitution or Intelligence, so we've gone with Constitution, and it adds strength for the Oozewarp to be competent in battle. With our feats, we'll be focusing on the Sorcerer archetype to get access to the Tentacular Limbs to increase our combat possibilities, as the Oozemorph feats are primarily defensive. The skills benefiting the Oozewarp includes acrobatics and stealth to help them survive, especially when they look like an abomination. In acrobatics, Quick Squeeze will emulate the ooze mobility of slithering everywhere and squeezing into tight spaces. Steady balance will help the Oozewarp to maintain their balance in unfavorable conditions, whether it's on a ledge or a tightrope. Stealth grants options to help the Oozewarp to stay safe or track down prey. Terrain Stalker grants bonuses in snow, underbrush, and rubble environments, places where Ooze like to hide in. Shadow Mark adds a penalty to a target's perception check when you're stalking them. Foil Senses improves on this by negating other senses like motion sense, life sense, or scent. Swift Sneak allows a Oozewarp to keep up with the prey, making it a better hunter than other oozes. And Legendary Sneak is a trait of normal oozes to blend into their background, waiting for an ambush. For equipment, we are using the hand wraps of Mighty Blows to increase the damage dice of the unarmed strikes. We are wearing the Explorer's clothing to gain unarmed proficiency to our AC and to utilize the fundamental armor runes. The Oozewarp will be able to strike foes with reach by activating the Tentacular Limbs focus spell. From there, the Oozewarp will be able to strike up to 4 times per round with flurry and 2 strikes, each potentially applying acid damage. In regards to defenses, the Oozemorph archetype has a number of options to reduce precision and bludgeoning damage, making them durable against certain foes and weapon damages. Vacate Eyes is a good option if going against creatures that have the abilities with a visual trait, whether it's monsters or bards and swashbucklers who attempt to perform. Even with gaining the blinded condition, Uncanny Awareness will help compensate for the Oozewarp. And lastly, communicating with oozes can give the Oozewarp options to avoid being overrun or send them onto pursuers. And here we have all the feats, skills, and equipment discussed in today's video. If you'd enjoyed today's video, leave a like and subscribe. Also comment your thoughts on the Oozewarp below. Till next time.